The champagne cork popped behind me as I cleaned out my desk drawer. 27 items. That's what 5 years of my life had amounted to in this sterile office. A coffee-stained mousepad. 3 dried-up pens. A photo of my daughter from her graduation that nobody had ever bothered to ask about. The laughter cut through the silence like broken glass. Sharp, deliberate, meant to be heard. I didn't turn around, couldn't. My hands were shaking too badly to trust what I might do if I saw their faces. Instead, I focused on the weight of that small cardboard box in my arms. Everything I was worth to Morrison Associates fit into something that once held printer paper. The firing had been clinical, surgical. Rebecca Morrison herself had delivered the news with all the warmth of a tax audit. Budget cuts, she'd said. Restructuring. The kind of corporate speak that sounds reasonable until you realize you're the one being restructured right out of existence. But the timing was what really twisted the knife. 3 weeks. 3 weeks since I'd submitted the Hartwell proposal, the one I'd spent 6 months developing, the one that could revolutionize how the company approached client retention. The one that Rebecca had praised in our last meeting, calling it innovative thinking. Now, Marcus Chen was getting promoted to Senior Account Director, the position I'd been promised 18 months ago, the position I'd been told would be mine once I proved my value to the company. Behind me, someone clinked glasses. The sound echoed off the open office walls like a death knell. I sealed the cardboard box with trembling fingers. The tape made a violent ripping sound that seemed to announce my defeat to the entire floor. A few people glanced over, their expressions carefully neutral. Professional, safe. Covards. The elevator ride down felt eternal. 43 floors of gravity pulling me away from everything I'd built. Each floor that passed was another year of my career disappearing into the void. The little digital numbers blinked past like a countdown to nowhere. The underground parking garage was tomb silent. My footsteps echoed off concrete walls that had seen dozens of people just like me. Fired, discarded. Replaced by someone younger, cheaper, or better connected. I set the box on the roof of my Honda Civic and fished for my keys. They slipped through my fingers twice before I managed to unlock the door. Even my hands were betraying me now. Everything was falling apart. The drive home blurred past in a haze of anger and humiliation. Traffic lights, stop signs, the rhythm of normal life continuing while mine had just imploded. How do you explain to your family that you've been thrown away? How do you look your teenage daughter in the eye and tell her that daddy wasn't good enough? My phone buzzed against the dashboard. Probably Sarah wondering why I was home early. I couldn't face that conversation yet, not while the taste of defeat was still fresh in my mouth. The house was empty when I arrived. Sarah was at her book club. Emma was at soccer practice. Good. I needed time to rehearse my story, spin-doctor my own failure into something that wouldn't terrify them. I set the cardboard box on the kitchen counter and stared at it. 27 items, 5 years. The math didn't add up to anything meaningful. The refrigerator hummed, the clock ticked. The house held its breath around my shame. My phone erupted to life, vibrating against the granite countertop like an angry wasp. Unknown number. Probably a debt collector who'd somehow gotten the memo about my employment status. I almost didn't answer. The voice on the other end was crisp, professional, unfamiliar. Is this David Harrison? Speaking. Mr. Harrison, this is Jennifer Walsh from Pacific Dynamics Corporation. I'm calling on behalf of our CEO, Richard Kellerman. Would you have a few minutes to speak with him? Pacific Dynamics. I knew the name. Tech company. Big player in the digital transformation space. Competitors to Morrison, Associates in several key areas. I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong number. I don't. Mr. Harrison, we're very familiar with your work, particularly your recent proposal regarding client retention strategies. Mr. Kellerman would very much like to speak with you. The world tilted sideways. My recent proposal, the Hartwell proposal, the one sitting in Rebecca Morrison's inbox, the one nobody outside the company should know about. How do you know about? Please hold for Mr. Kellerman. The line went silent, except for a soft classical music that sounded expensive. My heart was hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. This wasn't possible. Corporate espionage happened in movies, not to middle management losers sitting in their kitchens surrounded by unemployment. The music cut off abruptly. David Harrison, The voice was warm, confident, with just a hint of Texas drawl. "Dick Kellerman here. I hope you don't mind me calling out of the blue." Richard Kellerman. I'd seen him in Forbes, Time magazine. The man had built Pacific Dynamics from a two-person startup into a billion-dollar corporation in less than 15 years. And he was calling me. "Mr. Kellerman, I have to say, I'm a bit confused about how you got hold of your proposal." "Well, that's a story worth telling. But first, let me ask you something. Are you sitting down?" I was standing at my kitchen counter, gripping the phone like a lifeline. "Not really. You might want to. What I'm about to tell you is going to change your day considerably." I pulled out a kitchen chair and sank into it. The cardboard box sat across from me like evidence of my failure. "Mr. Harrison, 3 weeks ago, someone from Morrison Associates reached out to us, wanted to set up a meeting about potential collaboration opportunities. Nothing unusual there. Companies talk to each other all the time." My stomach was churning. This was heading somewhere dark. The interesting part was what happened during that meeting. Rebecca Morrison herself showed up with a proposal. Your proposal, David, word for word. She pitched your client retention strategy as Morrison's latest innovation, tried to license it to us for $2.5 million. The chair creaked as I gripped its arms. $2.5 million. For work I'd done, for ideas I'd developed, for strategies I'd created during countless late nights while my family slept. But here's where it gets interesting. See, we've been tracking your career for about 6 months now. Our head of acquisitions has been watching Morrison's client retention rates, and frankly, they've been abysmal. Until recently. Someone there was doing something right, and we wanted to know who. The room was spinning. 6 months. They'd been watching me for 6 months while I thought I was invisible, while I thought nobody noticed my work. Your proposal landed on my desk this morning, David, and I have to tell you, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The kind of thinking that transforms companies. The kind of innovation that creates new markets. I tried to speak, but my throat had turned to sandpaper. Now, here's where things get unpleasant for Ms. Morrison. See, we do our homework. Real homework. Background checks. Employment verification. And what do you think we discovered when we dug into the authorship of this remarkable proposal? They fired me today. The words came out as a whisper. I know they did, David, and I know why. Rebecca Morrison needed you gone before we started asking uncomfortable questions about intellectual property theft. She needed to eliminate the evidence. The kitchen walls felt like they were closing in. This wasn't just betrayal, this was orchestrated destruction, planned, calculated. They'd stolen my work and then erased me to cover their tracks. Mr. Kellerman, I don't understand. If you know they stole my proposal, why are you calling me? Why not just? Because I want to offer you a job, David. Vice President of Strategic Innovation, $200,000 base salary, performance bonuses that could double that, full benefits, stock options. And I want you to start Monday. The silence stretched between us like a bridge across an impossible chasm. Vice President, Strategic Innovation. More money than I'd ever dreamed of making, and $200,000 was just the beginning. There's more, Kellerman continued. I want you to build a team. Hire whoever you want, remote work options, your own budget for research and development. Complete autonomy to implement your strategies across our entire client base. I was gripping the phone so hard my knuckles had turned white. This wasn't real. Things like this didn't happen to people like me. Not in the real world. But that's not even the best part, David. See, we've been developing a new client services platform, revolutionary technology. We're launching it next quarter, and we need someone to head up the strategic rollout. Someone who understands retention, someone who knows how to build lasting client relationships. My brain was struggling to process the magnitude of what he was offering. This wasn't just a job, this was a career transformation, a life transformation. I need to ask you something, Mr. Kellerman. This feels too good to be true. What's the catch? His laugh was warm, genuine. The catch is that you'll be working for Pacific Dynamics instead of watching your career die at Morrison Associates. The catch is that you'll be valued instead of discarded. The catch is that your ideas will be implemented instead of stolen. The cardboard box on the counter seemed to shrink before my eyes. 27 items. Such a small price for such a massive betrayal. There is one condition, though, Kellerman added. I need an answer by 5 p.m. today. We're moving fast on this platform launch, and frankly, I won't take no for an answer. You're exactly what we've been looking for. I glanced at the microwave clock. 3:27 p.m. Less than 2 hours to make a decision that would reshape everything. Can I ask how you got my personal number? David, when you want to hire someone badly enough, you find a way to reach them. We've been preparing this offer for 2 weeks, ever since we realized what Morrison was really trying to sell us. 2 weeks. They'd been planning to hire me for 2 weeks while Rebecca Morrison was planning to fire me. The irony was so sharp it was almost funny. Mr. Kellerman, I need to think about this. I need to talk to my family. This is... David, let me stop you right there. I understand the impulse to deliberate. Big decisions deserve careful consideration. But sometimes the universe hands you exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. This is one of those times. The house creaked around us like it was settling into this new reality. Outside, a car door slammed. Sarah was home early. I'll take it, I said before I could stop myself. The words hung in the air like a declaration of independence, like a war cry, like the sound of bridges burning behind me. Outstanding. Jennifer will email you the paperwork within the hour. Welcome to Pacific Dynamics, David. You just made the smartest career decision of your life. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in the sudden silence. The cardboard box looked different now. Not like evidence of failure, but like archaeological remains of a previous life. A smaller life. The front door opened with Sarah's familiar rhythm. Keys in the bowl, purse on the hook, the comfortable sounds of home and routine and normalcy, except nothing was normal anymore. Everything had just changed. David, you're home early. Is everything okay? She appeared in the kitchen doorway, her book club smile fading as she took in my expression. The cardboard box, the phone still clutched in my white-knuckled hand. Honey, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode if handled roughly. How do you explain that your life just went from disaster to dreams come true in the space of a 15-minute phone call? They fired me today. Sarah's face went through a series of expressions: shock, concern, anger, then something that might have been relief, which surprised us both. David, I'm sorry. I know how much that job meant to you. But honestly, you've been miserable there for months. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. She moved to hug me, but I held up a hand. Not yet. I wasn't done with my story. There's more. The reason they fired me? They stole my proposal. The Hartwell proposal. Rebecca Morrison tried to sell it to another company for $2.5 million. They needed me gone before anyone started asking questions. Sarah's expression hardened. In 12 years of marriage, I'd seen that look maybe 3 times. It meant someone was about to feel her wrath. Those bastards. David, you have to sue them. That's theft. That's... Sarah, wait. Let me finish. I took a deep breath. The company they tried to sell it to? They called me, 20 minutes ago. They offered me a job, vice president level. $200,000 to start. The kitchen went silent except for the humming refrigerator and the ticking clock. Sarah stared at me like I'd told her aliens had landed in our backyard. 200,000? She whispered. Plus bonuses, plus stock options, plus a team to build, plus complete autonomy to implement my strategies across their entire client base. Sarah sank into the chair across from me. The cardboard box sat between us like a monument to what used to be. David, this is insane. Companies don't just call people out of nowhere and offer them executive positions. There has to be a catch. There has to be. I already said yes. The silence that followed was profound, like the moment after lightning before thunder arrives. Sarah's eyes went wide, then narrow, then calculating. You said yes. Without talking to me, without discussing it, you just said yes to a job offer from a stranger. The anger in her voice was warranted. We'd always made big decisions together. Financial decisions, career decisions, life decisions. But this felt different. This felt like survival. Sarah, they've been watching my work for 6 months. They came to me because they recognized what Morrison was too stupid to value. This isn't random. This is validation. This is crazy, is what this is. She stood up and started pacing the kitchen. David, what if it's a scam? What if it's corporate espionage? What if they're using you to get inside information about Morrison? The questions were fair, reasonable, exactly what a smart wife would ask her impulsive husband, but I could feel the truth of Kellerman's offer in my bones, the rightness of it. Then I guess I'll find out Monday morning when I show up for work. My phone buzzed against the counter. Email notification. Jennifer Walsh from Pacific Dynamics with a subject line that read, "Welcome to the team, action items." I opened it. Official offer letter, employment contract, non-disclosure agreements, benefits package overview, start date confirmation for Monday, 8 a.m., company address, parking instructions. It was real. All of it. The nightmare and the dream, happening simultaneously. Sarah read over my shoulder, her breathing gradually slowing as she processed the details, the salary figures, the benefit descriptions, the stock option allocations that could be worth millions if the company continued growing. Jesus, David, this is really happening. This is really happening. She sat back down heavily, running her hands through her hair. What do we tell Emma? Emma, our 15-year-old daughter who'd grown up watching her father struggle for recognition, who'd seen me work late nights and weekends for promises that never materialized, who'd learned not to get excited about Daddy's work announcements because they usually turned into disappointments. We tell her that sometimes the universe has a sense of justice. At 4:45, my phone rang again. Unknown number, different from before, but the same corporate precision to the ring. David, it's Dick Kellerman again. I hope you don't mind me checking in. Not at all, Mr. Kellerman. Call me Dick, please. We're colleagues now. I wanted to give you a heads up about something that's going to happen in the next few hours that you should probably know about. The kitchen suddenly felt too warm. What kind of something? We're severing all potential business relationships with Morrison Associates, effective immediately. We're also filing a complaint with the Better Business Bureau regarding their unethical business practices. And we're recommending that our network of partner companies review any ongoing relationships they might have with Rebecca Morrison's organization. The implications hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about hiring me away from Morrison. This was about destroying them, systematically, professionally, completely. Dick, that seems a bit excessive? David, intellectual property theft is a serious crime. Attempting to sell stolen work is fraud. Rebecca Morrison made a choice when she decided to steal your proposal and fire you to cover her tracks. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Through the kitchen window, I could see our neighbor watering his lawn, normal life continuing while mine transformed into something unrecognizable. How bad will this be for them? Morrison Associates will survive, but their reputation is going to take a significant hit. Word travels fast in our industry. By tomorrow morning, everyone who matters will know what happened. Rebecca Morrison will spend the next few years rebuilding trust that she never should have broken. The satisfaction should have felt sweeter. This was justice. This was karma. This was everything Rebecca Morrison deserved for her betrayal. But all I felt was a hollow kind of sadness. For what could have been, for relationships destroyed, for the colleagues who had nothing to do with this mess. Dick, what about the other employees? The people who had nothing to do with this? That's not your problem anymore, David. Your problem is figuring out how to revolutionize client retention strategies for the fastest-growing tech company in the Pacific Northwest. Your problem is building a team that can implement your vision across 200 corporate clients. He was right. Morrison Associates was behind me now. The cardboard box, the champagne celebration, the betrayal, all of it was yesterday's story. I'll see you Monday morning, David, 8 a.m. sharp. We're going to build something extraordinary together. The line went dead for the second time that day, but this time, the silence felt different, hopeful, like the pause before an orchestra begins. Sarah was watching me from across the table, her expression unreadable. That was him again? Morrison Associates is about to have a very bad week. Good. The word came out flat, cold, final. They earned it. At 6:30, Emma burst through the front door with all the chaotic energy of a teenager fresh from soccer practice. Grass stains on her uniform, hair escaping from her ponytail. The kind of beautiful disaster that reminded me why everything I did was worth it. Dad, why are you home so early, and why do you look weird? Weird how? Like you won the lottery but also like someone died. It's confusing. Sarah and I exchanged glances. How do you explain adult complexities to someone who still believes the world makes sense? Emma, sit down for a minute. We need to talk. Her face immediately shifted to concern. In our house, we need to talk usually meant bad news, medical issues, family problems, the kind of conversations that change everything. Am I in trouble? Because if this is about the dent in the garage door, I already told you that was probably the neighbor's cat. You're not in trouble, but some things happened today that are going to change our lives. Good changes, but big ones. I told her the story, all of it, the firing, the theft, the phone call, the job offer, the new beginning. She listened with the kind of intense focus she usually reserved for social media drama. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then, so, you're like a spy now? Corporate espionage and secret meetings and stuff? Not exactly, honey. I'm more like someone who got rescued from a bad situation. And we're going to be rich? Sarah laughed, despite everything. We're going to be comfortable. There's a difference. Emma grinned, the kind of smile that could power small cities. This is the coolest thing that's ever happened to our family. Wait until I tell Jessica. Her dad just got promoted to assistant manager at the bank. That's nothing compared to vice president of evil corporations. Strategic innovation, I corrected. Same thing. That evening, as Sarah and Emma celebrated with takeout Chinese food and plans for a vacation we could finally afford, I found myself back in the kitchen staring at the cardboard box. 27 items that had once been my entire professional identity. I picked up the photo of Emma from her graduation. She was smiling in that picture, proud, happy, looking at her father like he was a hero instead of a middle management disappointment. Maybe she'd been right all along. My phone buzzed one more time. Text message from an unknown number. Heard about your new position. Congratulations. You deserved better than us anyway, Marcus. Marcus Chen, the man who'd gotten my promotion, the man who'd probably known about Rebecca's plan all along, the man who'd celebrated my firing with champagne. I deleted the message without responding. Some bridges weren't worth rebuilding. Monday morning came faster than expected. I stood in front of the Pacific Dynamics building at 7:55 a.m., wearing my best suit and carrying a briefcase that contained nothing but hope and determination. The building was glass and steel and ambition. Everything Morrison Associates wasn't. Modern, forward-thinking, built for people who understood innovation instead of fearing it. Jennifer Walsh met me in the lobby. Tall, professional, the kind of person who made things happen efficiently and without drama. Mr. Harrison, I'm Jennifer. Welcome to Pacific Dynamics. She led me to an elevator that moved smoothly upward without the grinding protests of Morrison's ancient machinery. Everything here was designed to work properly, to support its people instead of grinding them down. The 32nd floor opened into a space that looked like the future. Open workstations, collaborative spaces, natural light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. People who looked engaged instead of defeated. Your office is this way. My office, not a cubicle, not a shared workspace, an actual office with walls and a door and a view of the city that stretched to the mountains beyond. Dick Kellerman was waiting inside, standing by the window with 2 cups of coffee and a smile that suggested he was genuinely happy to see me. David, welcome to your new life. The office was perfect. Spacious enough for meetings but cozy enough for thinking. A desk that could hold actual projects instead of just survival paperwork. Bookshelves that could be filled with innovation instead of compliance manuals. Dick, this is incredible, thank you. Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see what we're building here. Wait until you realize how much we need someone exactly like you. He handed me a folder thick with project descriptions, client profiles, and strategic initiatives that made my Morrison work look like kindergarten exercises. Real challenges, real opportunities, real impact. Your team is being assembled as we speak. I've given you carte blanche to hire anyone you want from anywhere you want. Poach talent from competitors. Find hidden gems in unexpected places. Build something unprecedented. The folder was heavy in my hands, substantial, like holding the weight of actual responsibility instead of busy work designed to keep me occupied. There's one more thing, David, something I didn't mention in our phone conversation. He handed me a second folder. This one labeled Morrison Associates Competitive Analysis. We've been tracking their client retention metrics since our meeting with Rebecca Morrison. Guess what's happening to their numbers since they lost you? I opened the folder. Charts and graphs and statistical analyses that told a story of systematic decline. Everything I'd been preventing. Everything I'd been fixing. Everything that was now falling apart in my absence. Their client satisfaction scores have dropped 12% in 3 weeks. Their renewal rates are down 8%. 2 major clients have already switched to competitors. Rebecca Morrison is about to discover exactly what you were worth to her company. The irony was sharp enough to cut glass. They'd fired me to hide their theft, only to discover that I was the one thing keeping them afloat. That's not your problem anymore, David. Your problem is helping Pacific Dynamics capture those displaced clients. Your problem is implementing retention strategies that will make us the dominant player in this space. He headed toward the door, then paused. Oh, and David, the entire executive team is taking you to lunch today. Welcome to the big leagues. As his footsteps faded down the hallway, I sat behind my new desk and opened my laptop. The screen filled with access to systems and databases and resources that Morrison had never trusted me with. Real tools for real work. Outside my window, the city spread out like a map of possibilities. Somewhere down there, Rebecca Morrison was probably wondering how her perfect plan had gone so wrong. Somewhere down there, my former colleagues were discovering that champagne celebrations could turn bitter quickly. But I wasn't thinking about them anymore. I was thinking about the team I was going to build, the strategies I was going to implement, the clients I was going to serve, the future I was going to create. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "How's your first day going?" I typed back quickly, like the beginning of everything I was meant to do. And for the first time in 5 years, that felt like the absolute truth. The morning flew by in a blur of introductions, system orientations, and strategic discussions that actually mattered. Real conversations about real solutions to real problems. No politics, no bureaucracy. No arbitrary limitations designed to protect mediocrity. At lunch, the executive team outlined Pacific Dynamics expansion plans, new markets, new services. New opportunities that would require exactly the kind of innovative thinking I'd been developing for years. "David," said Rebecca Chen, the Chief Operations Officer, "we've been waiting for someone like you for quite some time. Someone who understands that client retention isn't just about customer service, it's about creating fundamental value that competitors can't replicate. Someone like me, not someone cheaper, not someone more connected. Someone exactly like me, with my skills and my perspective and my ideas." The afternoon brought meetings with my new team members, talented people recruited from top companies specifically for their expertise and vision. People who'd been chosen for what they could contribute rather than how well they fit into existing limitations. By 5 p.m., I was emotionally and mentally exhausted. Good exhaustion, the kind that comes from being fully engaged instead of just surviving. As I packed up my new briefcase, Jennifer Walsh knocked on my office door. "Mr. Harrison, I have something you might find interesting." She handed me a printout of an email thread, internal Morrison, Associates Communications, that had somehow found their way to Pacific Dynamics Intelligence Network. The subject line read, "Emergency Client Retention Meeting, Tuesday 8 a.m. The emails told a story of panic. 3 more clients had announced they were switching providers. The Hartwell account was reconsidering their contract renewal. Rebecca Morrison was demanding answers that nobody could provide. "How did you get these?" Jennifer smiled. "The business intelligence world is smaller than you might think. Word gets around when a company loses their retention specialist under questionable circumstances." The last email in the thread was from Rebecca Morrison herself, sent 20 minutes ago. "We need to understand what Harrison was doing that we're not. Find out who he's working for now and what strategies they're implementing. This company cannot afford to lose any more clients." I stared at the screen until the words blurred together. Rebecca Morrison, who'd stolen my proposal and fired me to cover her tracks, was now desperately trying to figure out how to replicate what she'd destroyed. "Justice has a sense of humor," Jennifer observed. Indeed it did. I drove home through downtown traffic that felt different somehow. Less like obstacle and more like the rhythm of a city that was now genuinely mine. A place where I belonged, where I mattered, where my work would actually make a difference. The house smelled like Sarah's famous lasagna when I walked through the front door, comfort food for a day that had redefined comfort itself. "So," she called from the kitchen, How was it? It was the first day of the rest of my life. Emma appeared in the doorway, still in her school clothes but with an expression of barely contained curiosity. Dad, did you fire anyone today? Did you make any corporate enemies? Did you steal any secrets? Emma, that's not how real business works. Boring. But did you like it? Such a simple question. Did I like it? For 5 years at Morrison, I'd never once asked myself that question. Liking work had seemed beside the point. Work was survival, obligation. The price of providing for your family. Yeah, honey, I really liked it. She grinned and disappeared back toward the stairs. Cool. Now you can be one of those dads who actually enjoys going to work instead of complaining about it all the time. From the mouths of teenagers. Sarah appeared with a glass of wine and a questioning expression. So tell me everything. And I mean everything. I told her about the office, the team, the projects, the resources, the respect, the sense that I was finally in a place where my ideas mattered more than their political implications. It sounds almost too good to be true, she said when I finished. Maybe. But maybe sometimes things that seem too good to be true are just things that are finally good enough. Later that evening, as Sarah and Emma watched television and I reviewed project files in my study, my phone rang one final time. Unknown number again, but this time I recognized the area code. Morrison, Associates. David, this is Rebecca Morrison. The voice that had delivered my termination 3 days ago. The voice that had stolen my ideas and discarded my contributions. The voice that now sounded distinctly strained. Rebecca. David, I'll be direct. We may have made a mistake. A significant mistake. Your departure has created some challenges that we didn't anticipate. I said nothing. Let the silence stretch between us like the distance between who I used to be and who I was becoming. David, I'd like to discuss the possibility of you returning to Morrison, Associates. In a different capacity, a better capacity, senior director level, significant salary increase. More autonomy, more recognition. More. Always more. As if throwing additional scraps would make up for the fundamental disrespect. How significant a salary increase? 20% above your previous compensation, plus performance bonuses tied to client retention metrics, plus your own team to manage. 20%. Pacific Dynamics had offered 200%, plus benefits that Morrison couldn't match, plus respect that Rebecca Morrison had never learned how to give. Rebecca, can I ask you something? Of course. Is this conversation happening because you value my contributions, or because you're desperate? The pause that followed was answer enough. David, business is complicated. Sometimes decisions are made that seem wrong in retrospect. What matters is our ability to learn from our mistakes and move forward constructively. Corporate speak, the language of people who'd never learned to say I'm sorry or I was wrong or I treated you badly. Rebecca, I appreciate the offer. I really do, but I'm afraid I won't be returning to Morrison, Associates. I've accepted a position elsewhere. Where? Such a simple question loaded with such desperate implications. Where had her former retention specialist landed, who now had access to his ideas and strategies? What competitive advantage was slipping through her fingers? I'm sure you'll find out soon enough. David, please, be reasonable. Whatever they're offering you, we can match it. Whatever promises they've made, we can honor them. You know Morrison. You know our clients. You know our systems. Starting over somewhere else is a risk you don't need to take. But that was exactly wrong. Starting over was exactly the risk I needed to take. The risk I should have taken years ago. The risk that had finally been forced upon me by her betrayal. Rebecca, I want you to know something. I don't blame you for firing me. I understand business decisions. But I will never forgive you for stealing my work and claiming it as your own. That wasn't business. That was theft. David, I think there may be some misunderstanding about. There's no misunderstanding. I know exactly what happened, and soon, so will everyone else. I ended the call and turned off my phone. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities. Tonight was for celebrating the end of an old story and the beginning of a new one. In the living room, Sarah and Emma were laughing at something on television. Normal family sounds from my new abnormal life. The life where I was valued instead of discarded, where my ideas mattered, where justice had finally caught up with betrayal. The cardboard box was still sitting on my desk, 27 items from my old life, waiting to be unpacked into my new reality. Some of them I'd keep, the photo of Emma, a few meaningful mementos. The rest would be discarded, like old clothes that no longer fit. I picked up the photo of Emma's graduation. In it, she was looking at the camera, but her hand was on my arm, trusting, proud, believing in her father's potential even when he couldn't see it himself. Tomorrow, I'd start building something extraordinary. Tonight, I'd simply be grateful that sometimes, rarely, the universe conspires to give you exactly what you deserve, exactly when you need it most. The champagne my former colleagues had opened to celebrate my firing had probably gone flat by now. But somewhere in downtown Portland, Pacific Dynamics kept a well-stocked bar for celebrating real victories. I had a feeling I'd be visiting that bar frequently in the months to come.